Hi, my name is Cantor Lucy Fishbein, and I am one of the cantors at Congregation B'nai Jeshurun in Short Hills. When I was a teenager, I was truly obsessed with my temple youth group. I loved the music and the friendships and the programming and the sense of belonging. I loved it all. But that being said, I had never really considered the idea of where God fit into the conversation. Synagogue for me was about connection and inspiration, not really about God. That is, until I reached 10th grade and entered confirmation class. That year, I learned about the theology of Martin Buber. We learned that there are two types of relationships: the I-it, the transactional relationship from which both parties derive some benefit, and the I-thou, one based in deep and meaningful connection. Inherent in the space of the I-thou relationship is the presence of God. When we engage deeply and sincerely with one another, God is there. If you were to draw a dotted line that connects one soul to another, that is God. When I learned this concept, I felt like my world had been cracked open. All of a sudden, this idea of God, which had previously felt so foreign and out of reach, was in fact right there in the room with me. God was the relationship between myself and the people whom I loved. God was the sense of belonging that I had been feeling. In that moment, I realized that God had been present all along, and it had just taken an outside perspective for me to realize it. In this week's Parsha, we meet our patriarch Jacob in the desert as he too experiences an unexpected encounter with the divine. On his journey from Beersheba to Haran, he lays down to sleep one night under the stars. He finds himself in the midst of a dream in which he witnesses a choir of angels going up and down a staircase, seemingly leading to the heavens above. God speaks to him and promises him blessings and progeny, and when Jacob wakes up, he utters the words, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh, ve'anochi lo yadati. Indeed, God was in this place, and I did not know it. Jacob is woken up by the power of his dream, and in turn, he has a spiritual awakening as well. He becomes aware of the presence of the divine in an unexpected place and is confronted with his relationship to himself, to generations past, and to the generations to come. God was indeed present all along. Many times since, this experience of unexpected encounters with the divine has repeated itself in various ways in my life. However, in each instance, I experienced some resistance from within myself, because in order to make space for the possibility of encountering God, I find that I must first make myself vulnerable, whether to an experience, to another person, or even to myself. According to acclaimed psychologist Brené Brown, vulnerability represents uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Our lives are full of experiences that rely on our ability, or rather our willingness, to make ourselves vulnerable. The pursuit of dreams, falling in love, buying a house, becoming a parent, entrepreneurship, career change, retirement, almost without exception, the milestones in our adult lives rely on the willingness to exist in a space of uncertainty and vulnerability. From the very start of the biblical narrative, we are taught that each human being is made in the divine image, B'Tselem Elohim. And if that holds true, then each time we open ourselves up to engage with one another in a meaningful relationship, each time we allow ourselves to make space for each other, we are indeed affording ourselves the opportunity to encounter the divine. In our tradition, we have many names for God, one of which is Mastir Panim, the one who hides their face. In these times, it can often feel as though God is indeed hiding from us, turning the divine countenance away from humanity. And yet, if we believe that God is inside all of us, that we are remnants of that divine spark, then it is our job to create a world in which God can dwell. Can you imagine if every time we looked into the face of our neighbor, before we saw anything else, we saw the face of God? So this week, we read Parshat Vayeitze, and I pray that we are all able to connect more deeply, to see God more clearly, and to recognize the divine in each and every one of us. Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh. Indeed, God is in this place, and it is up to us to recognize it.